For all the incredible boss fights this year, there have been a few that were lacking. From lame to outright underwhelming, especially given the story and setup, these enemies were just disappointing overall. Let's look at 12 of the most disappointing bosses of 2022. Subject Alpha, the Callisto Protocol. There's only one real boss in the Callisto Protocol, and it's the mutated Captain Leon Ferris, aka Subject Alpha. In the first phase, he swings here and there, sometimes grabbing you and you just hit or shoot back. His second phase sees him mutating further, but don't worry, just shoot and dodge. Take down the smaller biophages and repeat until he keels over. Mechanically boring and one note, but it sucks more when the game ends abruptly several minutes later. Odin, God of War Ragnarok. Let's be honest, we all expected more from Odin. But no, he attacks with a spear, lights up some areas with Bifrost, which you run out of, and throws some slow-moving projectiles. Is he an incredible villain that deserved the beatdown? Sure, but it felt like he should have been a much bigger threat, with a way more epic scale than we got. The Beast, Plague Tale Requiem. More of a mini-boss, the Beast appears in Chapter 6 and looks suitably imposing. He's a walking tower of a man with massive armor and a flaming two-handed flail. You think it'll be a tough fight, until you throw tar with the sling at his flail to blind him as he's standing in fire. Then going around shooting his armor off with a rock and watching him burn to death. Sure, you could not do this and fight other enemies and whatnot, but the Beast is still a slow, plodding foe that offers almost no threat. Garangolm. Of the three lords terrorizing the outskirts of the Citadel, Garangolm is the Frankenstein's monster of the trio. He's mostly left alone, and doesn't seem to be bothering anyone, though the game claims otherwise. Regardless, he's the easiest and most underwhelming of the trio. Aside from the one attack that could catch you unawares, staggering Garangolm and hitting its weak spots is super easy. Thankfully, Lunagaron puts up more of a fight, and Malzeno is one of the toughest bosses in the game, so they're not a complete disappointment. WALTZ, Dying Light 2 Stay Human. The finale of Dying Light 2, with finding Mia and then dealing with WALTZ, who wants to destroy Villador, is one big cluster and not in a good way. The actual fight sees him running around, swiping at you, rinse, repeat. The closing part, where he and Aiden are mutated and jumping through X-13, could have been interesting, but it quickly segues into the ending. Not the worst encounter, but it still feels underwhelming, both in terms of mechanics and payoff. The Dragonlord, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Not only is the Dragonlord easy to defeat, but his entire story arc feels so flat. Throughout the game, it's teased that he exists outside of the Bunker Master's control and can do things without Tina knowing. Even at the end, he's seemingly changing the game to work to his advantage, until Tina re-exerts control, and that's pretty much that. It also doesn't help that he just becomes another NPC running the endgame Chaos Chamber where, you guessed it, the real tough bosses await. Final boss, SKARN. The problem with the final boss in SKARN is that it's either an annoying puzzle you have to figure out, or one you already know that's so slow that it goes through the motions. The multiple phases are a pain instead of an escalating challenge, and the clunky combat makes it feel less like a showdown and more like a severe inconvenience en route to the ending. SPECTER Prime, Horizon Forbidden West. SPECTER Prime looks cool, and seeing it animate in slow motion as it slams down with its tendrils is great. But in addition to the spikes erupting beneath Aloy, that's all there is to it. This would have been decent if it led to a fight with Nemesis, the ultimate villain, and perhaps a much more epic set piece, but no. SPECTER Prime is it. It's also ultimately a hollow victory since Nemesis is on the way to Earth, and we must wait years for Horizon 3 to fight it. The Source of Madness. Source of Madness. While Source of Madness wasn't good, there was some hope that at least the final boss, the Source of Madness, would pose a challenge. Maybe it would use some procedural generation to twist and shift dynamically. Instead, there's a single large part that you keep hitting while dodging screen-covering lasers. And that's it. Visibility issues aside, you would think the Source would have more to offer. Howling Aces. CUPHEAD, The Delicious Last Course. The Howling Aces in this year's CUPHEAD DLC are a little weird in terms of setup. Why aren't you fighting plane-based enemies in your plane? Mid-air battles as Cuphead aren't new, see Grim Matchstick, and this one starts well enough. However, the last phase feels super disorienting as you're effectively fighting sideways and upside down. The fact that it's not a tough fight, even despite all this, is a bummer. The End. Sonic Frontiers. So you've run through all the titans in the game, each with epic themes and mechanics. You face something called The End, an enemy planet that even Super Sonic struggles with. If you play on normal or below, this is a super lame QTE sequence and nothing else. On hard, however, you have a shoot-'em-up sequence with bullet hell mechanics, which is better but also completely out of left field considering all of the other fights till now. ERESHKIGAL-OUTRIDERS WORLDSLAYER. The environment around ERESHKIGAL, the final story boss in Outriders WORLDSLAYER, is epic and sets the stage for this epic encounter between the two Altered. The problem is that her attacks are pretty plain, and that one cool-looking swoop is so easily and laughably interruptible. While her mid-air projectile attack is decent, her other trick is to summon minions. Also, no Phase 2. For the final story boss of the DLC, which already felt underwhelming with its length, ERESHKIGAL is just meh. SKARN. Diablo Immortal. While Diablo wasn't the craziest fight in Diablo 3, especially given all the hype, at least it was dramatic and interesting. SKARN in Diablo Immortal is boring. He fires a laser, necessitating you to run around in a circle. He also summons enemy versions of other classes that attack you and then splits into 4 clones, where you must find the real one. That's it. Yes, it's a mobile game, but the design is still underwhelming and lame. STARSCOURGE RADHAN, Elden Ring. In concept, the fight with STARSCOURGE RADHAN is insane. You summon numerous allies from the Round Table, hold to all battle RADHAN at once, as he swivels around on his horse and annihilates everyone with his dual swords and gravity magic. The problem is that the summons are more gimmicky than anything else, and lots of health and/or resilience are required to avoid getting immediately one-shotted. His attacks look awesome, but dealing with such insane damage would be less annoying if it wasn't all so chaotic. DRAGONLORD PLACIDUSAX, Elden Ring. DRAGONLORD PLACIDUSAX is your hidden optional boss, where, unlike Dark Eater Midir from Dark Souls 3, you wouldn't know existed if you didn't lie down in some random spot. Do that, and you face a 2-headed dragon that may very well be the lord of all dragons, and he's surprisingly normal, with easy telegraphed attacks and average damage. Not quite the super punishing optional boss we all expected. That's all for now. If you enjoy what you saw, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, now is a great time to subscribe. We upload brand new videos every single day. After subscribing, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time, right here on Gaming Bolt.